And we're now live, Madam Mayor.
I would like to call this council meeting of April 4th, 2022 to order. Good evening, everyone. My name is Sandra Easton, Mayor of the Town of Lincoln and Chair of today's council meeting. We are meeting electronically through Zoom during this declared emergency period. Members of the public may observe the proceedings by accessing the live webcast at our YouTube channel. Madam Clerk, would you please begin the national anthem? Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, Canada. We stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. I think there were some messages that came forward that wasn't able to be heard by councillors. We'll leave that and you can follow up on that on our behalf. Niagara region is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Arawandawak, the Tony, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The regional municipality of Niagara stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. Madam Clerk, would you please complete a roll call to establish quorum?
Thank you. Councillor Rajima.
Here.
Councillor Russell.
Here.
Councillor Pachariva.
Here.
Councillor Brunet.
Here.
Councillor Mcpherson.
Here.
Councillor Deputy Mayor Miclick.
Here.
Councillor Reimer.
Here.
Councillor Timmers.
Here.
Easton.
Okay.
We have quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. In addition, I want to take a moment to welcome the staff we have joining us today electronically. Chief Administrative Officer Mike Lukopoulos, Director of Finance, Administration, and Innovation Lawrence Wagner, Director of Special Projects Kathleen Dale, Director of Planning and Development Matt Bruder, Director of Community Services Shannon Mackay, Associate Director of Recreation and Culture Sarah Ain, Director of Economic Development and Communications, Paul Giuliani, Fire Chief Greg Hudson, CEO Lincoln Pelham Public Library, Julie Andrews, Director of Public Works, Dave Graham, Associate Director of Public Works, Jillian Harris, Legislative Committee Coordinator, Deanna Phillips. IT staff are also in attendance. Moderating and clerking the meeting today, we have our Director of Legislative Services in town, Julie Kirklos. And also joining us this evening, Regional Councillor Foster from Niagara Region. As this is a virtual meeting, I will ask that we follow some procedures. Should there be a connection or service disruption to the chair, or if quorum is lost, the clerk and/or chair and/or clerk will call a 10-minute recess to reconnect and to regain quorum. If quorum is lost, the meeting will be adjourned. If connection is lost from the chair, Deputy Mayor Mike Miclick, or the Vice Chair, We'll resume the meeting. Once reconnection is achieved, the chair will assume their role. Each member of council who wishes to speak, press the raise hand feature on your video call. The clerk will track our speakers list today and then invite you to speak when I open it for comments or questions. When I finish reading a motion and announcing the mover and seconder, the clerk will then call out the vote by reading each member of council's name out loud. Please remember to take yourselves off mute during this portion of the meeting so that you can confirm if you're in support or opposed. And please remember to put yourselves on mute when you're not speaking. Do members have any amendments to the order of the agenda? There being none, Madam Clerk, members, are there any declarations of interest?
Seeing none.
Thank you. Do members have any announcements? Just remember you have a limit of 3 items. Looking for yellow hands. I don't see any. We'll move on then.
We do have Councillor Timmers.
Councillor Timmers, go ahead.
Thank you, Marison. I was a little slow getting my hand up. I just wanted to comment on our opportunity we had to join the Niagara Regional Council for the Indigenous Education Training. It was last Thursday, March 31st. And it was just fantastic, such a great opportunity. And I'm really thankful that they extended the invitation to other councillors in the different municipalities to join them. Dr. Robin Bourgeois is just fantastic to see and to hear her messages. If anyone has the opportunity to go and see her speak, I would certainly recommend it. The key takeaways from that training was really around educating ourselves and sharing the message to others, and hopefully we can achieve reconciliation. It was very worthwhile, and those are my comments. I don't have any other announcements. Thank you, Marison.
Thank you very much, Councillor. I don't see any other hands. We'll move on to item 8, which is proclamations, and we have no proclamations this evening. Recognition and achievements, we have none at this time. Delegations and presentations, we have none this evening. And we move on now to items for consideration, and we have 2 items brought forward for consideration this evening. The first is a memorandum from the Chief Executive Officer, Lincoln Pelham Public Library, regarding follow-up appointment to the newly formed Lincoln Pelham Public Library. Do members have any questions?
Seeing none, Madam Mayor.
All right, CEO Julie, I'm going to Julie Andrews. I just want to make sure that in the interim, from the time that this item was put on the agenda, that there wasn't anything that you wish to address to council.
No, Madam Mayor, everything is as it should be.
Okay, thank you very much. I have a motion moved by Councillor Pachariva and seconded by Councillor Russell. The council receive and file as information, and that council approve the appointments of its members to the Lincoln Pelham Public Library for the remainder of the council term 2018 to 2022. Madam Clerk?
Yes, I would just actually like to list who those members are publicly. So that would be Donna Burton, Terry Tether, Jennifer Thiessen, Donna Edwards, Anna Murray, Joanna Kosis, Ruth Gretzinger, Councillor Adam Russell, and Councillor J.D. Pachariva.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Madam Clerk, would you please call out the vote?
Thank you. So all in favor, please raise your hands. And any opposed? And that carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. The next item is from the Niagara Region. We report PW 15-2022, moving transit forward, initial transition activities and next steps. Madam Clerk, I think it would be appropriate for us to allow to have council approve the involvement of Councillor Foster in the event that they have any questions of him.
Sure. So if we could just do a 2/3 vote to allow an unregistered delegation to be part of this discussion. So if we could just have a show of hands, please. All in favor? And any opposed, please raise your hand. And that's carried. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So are there any questions of any members of council to this report?
I see Regional Councillor Foster has his hand raised, Madam Mayor.
I'm assuming that you may have some item of clarification, Councillor Foster? Go
Yes,
ahead.
thank you, Madam Mayor. So just to let everybody know, with the region, this came up as a bit of a discussion, but when push came to shove at the end, it was unanimously approved by Regional Council. That was a very positive item that came up at that meeting. So anyway, good to go, moving to forward to the future of transit in Niagara.
All right, thank you very much. So we're going to go forward here. Members of council, the clerk sent out quite an extensive process for us. Madam Clerk, do you have any advance information from any of the councillors who are looking to put their names forward as representative?
The only advance representative that has put their name forward, to my knowledge, has been Councillor Pachariva. I'm not aware of any other nomination at this time.
Okay, and was there a seconder? I understood from your notes that you were looking for a seconder. Is that correct?
I am looking for a seconder for Councillor Pachariva, correct?
Okay, Councillor Pachariva, we're dealing with you now since you took the time to send your interest in. Do you have a seconder?
I do, Your Worship. Councillor Timmers.
Councillor Timmers?
Mhm.
All right, you have that, Madam Clerk?
I do.
Okay, now. All right, well, we'll just, so that begins the list then. Now, please raise your hand if you're interested in being appointed, and I'll recognize you in order, and then you can state your intentions and any comments. Let's start with that piece of it. Councillor Mcpherson.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I am. I have an intention to put my name forward.
Very good. And do you have a seconder, Councillor? Councillor Russell. Okay. Do you have anything that you'd like to say at this time?
Me or Councillor Russell?
You, Councillor Mcpherson.
Is this the appropriate time to put my
I'm looking at the notes.
information out there?
Okay. Let me just check with the clerk. Madam Clerk, I'm trying to save your voice, but if your voice is
Thank you.
enough, it probably would be better. You wrote this, so it would be better if you read it.
Thank you. So we're just going to take nominations right now, and then we'll go back and circle back once we have a seconder, and then we'll go back to those nominators and have them speak to their nomination. Okay.
Okay, that's great. Thank you for that clarification. I'm looking for yellow hands. Councillor Brunei.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do have an interest in this.
You've gone silent,
Yes,
Councillor Brunei.
Yeah. Do we have a seconder for Councillor Brunei?
Okay, we're looking for a seconder. Do you have a seconder, Councillor Brunei?
I do not, Madam Mayor. I have not spoken to any of my colleagues about this in any way, shape, or form, but I do have an interest, but I do not have a seconder at this point.
Okay. Is there a seconder for Councillor Brunei's self-nomination? That would be Councillor Pachariva. Thank you. I'm looking for more yellow hands.
Seeing none, Madam Mayor.
I'm looking for more yellow hands. I'm going to ask 3 times. I'm looking for more yellow hands. All right, so Madam Clerk, can you proceed? Because I don't know whether your intentions is to close nominations or not, so I don't want to interfere with that process.
So the nominations were open, they're now closed, and we'll ask in order as received for each person to speak to their nomination. So we'll start with Councillor Pachariva.
Thank you, Councillor Pachariva.
Thanks, Madam Clerk, and thanks to you, Your Worship. Great interest in being on this, along with Councillor Brunet. You know, we helped launch the U-Link, and I've been a staunch supporter of transportation, and you know, from the establishment of the Go Stop in town, and this is just the next evolution in that process. I was a member of the Regional Council Committee and had great workings around that table, was able to work freely with members of other municipalities like-minded, and would like that opportunity to move forward on this very important transportation aspect. I think it would serve our town well, not only from an economic development side, tourism side, but also providing linkages for our residents. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Madam Clerk.
Yes, the next one is Councillor Mcpherson.
Okay, Councillor Mcpherson, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and just to share, you know, my sincere interest in being Lincoln's choice on this very important committee. I, in my work life, led the development of short and long-term strategies over the 20 years. I was in a senior management role. I've also co-led on the Downtown Bench BIA 2017 to 2022 strategy. I participated in the MPCA's 2017 to 2022 strategy as the Lincoln representative on the MPC at that time. I've experience on several committees and boards representing Lincoln that would be outside of our normal council or internal council responsibility, working collaboratively with other municipalities, that being the 2014 to 2018 Niagara Road 12 Landfill Committee, the 2017, as I mentioned, Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority, and 2018 through to the present on the Penn West Hydro Committee. And I think that's an important piece of what we're looking for out of this role is working very closely with other municipalities in coming together with all of the goals that are listed in the report for this transitional Niagara Transit Commission Board. So I would be, if selected, I'd be honored to represent Lincoln. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor McPherson. Madam Clerk.
And the last but not least is Councillor Brunet.
Go ahead, Councillor Brunet. Councillor Brunet, can you hear us?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, my internet is very unstable, which is very unfortunate, the timing here. I'm not sure if you can hear me or not, but I'm freezing up ever since the onset of the meeting, but can you hear me?
Yes.
Hear you.
Okay, well, let's hope it stays. So, Madam Mayor, thank you for the opportunity. Similar to my two colleagues that have spoken before me, I think I've demonstrated over the last 7 years a keen interest in transit. Couldn't agree more with Councillor McPherson. I think it's very important to be able to work on both external and internal boards, and I did have that opportunity from 2014 to 2018 to sit on the Regional Transportation Steering Committee. Why is that important? It gives you a different dynamic to work with a number of mayors and a number of regional councilors, and also to get a different perspective from those municipalities, not just from the lens of ours. So I really enjoyed that opportunity. Prior to going to the Committee of the Whole, I was the chair of infrastructure, where, as Councillor Pachariva alluded, we launched U-Link And that was certainly something I've been a supporter of. A little closer to home, as we've looked at this new model, I embraced it, but I did have certain concerns with regards to the governance as well as the financial model. And I think it's very important that we have a voice that will be a strong voice for Lincoln, but also being respectful of other voices around the municipality. I do have the time. I am officially retired as of 2019. I don't know when these meetings take place, but I certainly do know that at the region, especially on regional transportation, a lot of those meetings took place during the day. So I do have the energy and I do have the time to be a representative. And I ask my colleagues to consider me. But I'm sure that anyone that has put their hat in the ring will do a wonderful job. Thank you for the opportunity, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Brunet. Madam Clerk, could we satisfy this section of your instructions?
Yes, and I would just like to, if it's okay, Madam Mayor, just to address a couple of things that were raised. So these meetings, I am told by the regional clerk that they will be held during the day. They will be held once a month. And it is until the period of January 31st, 2023, until such time there will be new reappointments. So I hope that helps with some information.
Okay, that's certainly very important. Thanks for bringing that up, Councillor Brunet. We have one representative, so it's important that people be there. I don't know whether that makes a difference to anyone, but I think that now that we have additional information, is there anyone that wishes to withdraw? Okay, that's good. Madam Clerk, would you please continue?
Thank you. So with that, we will be selecting one representative. And so we will go to vote with council. And we are asking for your vote in terms of who would you like to vote for. So I'll carry out, sorry, Councilor Regina, carry on.
Thank you. I just have a question. Can we find, since the issue of time did come up, can we hear a bit from each of the people that have put their names forward as to what boards they currently sit on? I know we had that information at some time, but I've kind of lost track of it.
Okay, are you questioning the commitment or the availability with that question, Councillor Regina?
I'd like to hear a little bit more information about that as to how much time people have to put toward this, how many boards they currently sit on.
Okay, all right, then Madam Clerk, would you please call them out in order?
Thank you. So Councillor Pachariva.
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship, and through you, Madam Clerk. I sit internally on the library, the Joint Fire Services, and active transportation. I don't sit on anything externally. I'm in sales. I make up my own schedule around meetings. I never missed a culture committee meeting, which was held during the region in my 8 years sitting on that during the day. So occasionally something odd might come up, but 99% of the time I'm available. And you don't need to worry about workload. I'm capable of doing the job.
Okay, thank you. Next, Madam Clerk.
We have Councillor Mcpherson.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And I am currently on the Penn West Hydro Board, which meets 3, possibly 4 times a year. And I'm also on the Downtown Bench BIA, which meets every month, the third Thursday at noon. I am currently retired and have no issue with attending during the day. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Okay, thank you very much.
And Councillor Brunet.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
You just frozen for a second there, Councillor Brunet.
Yeah.
Not quite.
Well, as the Heritage Committee internally, And externally, I'm on the Penn West Hydro Board, currently the chair, as well as the West Lincoln Memorial Hospital, which again, that board is now morphing into an advisory board, which will meet 3 times a year, every 4 months. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much.
Madam Mayor, if I may, I did not add the internal committee that I am on in age friendly.
Age friendly. Okay, thank you very much, Councillor. All right. Thank you very much for that, Councillor Regina. All right, Madam Clerk, would you proceed then?
Thank you. And I think we might have missed the beginning portion of Councillor Brunei's, which I think you had mentioned the heritage, but I think we lost you when you mentioned the Housing Advisory Committee as well. So I just wanted to make that known for the minutes. So carrying on, we'll be asking members of council to vote in favor of one of the nominees. So we have Councillor Pachariva, we have Councillor Mcpherson, and we have Councillor Brunei. So I will begin opening up the vote, and I will begin with Councillor Russell. Please choose one of the nominees.
Councillor Mcpherson.
Thank you. Councillor Pachariva.
I would like to vote for myself, Councillor Pachariva.
Councillor Reimer.
Councillor Pachariva.
Councillor Timmers.
Councillor Pachariva.
Thank you. Councillor Regina.
Councillor Pachariva.
Councillor Mcpherson.
I will vote for myself.
Thank you. Councillor Miclick.
Councillor Mcpherson.
Thank you. Councillor Brunei.
Myself.
Thank you. And Mary Easton.
Councillor Brunei.
Thank you. And with that, Councillor Pachariva receives 4 votes. Councillor Mcpherson, you've received 3 votes. And Councillor Brunei, you've received 2. So the person nominated that council appoints is Councillor Pachariva on the Transitional Transit Commission Board.
Thank you very much. Thanks very much, councillors. Three good committed candidates. We couldn't have done better in terms of having our choices made for us. So thank you all very much for putting your names forward. And we'll move on then. Just a moment. All right, so Madam Clerk, from the statement that you made, I take it we can move on to the confirmation that council appoint Councillor Paul Mcpherson on the Transitional Transit Commission Board to represent.
No, it will be Councillor Pachariva.
Oh, I'm sorry. My
Yeah,
apologies.
that's okay. And it was a motion moved by Pachariva and seconded by Councillor Timmers. And so that concludes the vote.
Okay, thank you very much.
Welcome.
Okay. We're at item number 12, motion to approve previous council minutes. By the way, congratulations, Councillor Pachariva. We're now considering items 12.1, council minutes of March 7th, 2022. Do members of council have any questions? I have a motion moved by Councillor Timmers and seconded by Councillor Brunei that council approve the minutes of the following meetings of council, special council minutes of March 7th, 2022. Madam Clerk, would you please call it the vote?
Thank you. All those in favor, please raise your hand. And all those opposed, please raise your hand. And that carries unanimously. Thank you.
We're now at just give me a moment. We're at item number 13, recommendations from standing committees. And we're now considering the following. Item 13.1, Committee of the Whole Minutes of March 28, 2022. Do members have any questions?
Seeing none, Madam Mayor.
I have a motion moved by Councillor Mcpherson and seconded by Councillor Nicollet. The council approve the following recommendations from Standing Committee of the Whole Minutes of March 28, 2022. Madam Clerk, would you please call the vote?
Thank you. All those in favor, please raise your hands. Thank you. And all those opposed, please raise your hands. And seeing none opposed, that carries unanimously. Thank you.
Very much. Just have to move forward here. Number of pages. We're now at item number 14, which is the notice of motion, item 14.1. The motion was brought forward by Councillor Michalek and endorsed by Councillor Russell. And this will be introduced and considered this evening. Councillor Michalek, would you please go ahead and speak to your motion?
Thank you very much, Mayor Easton. Through you to everybody. Good evening, everyone. That last council meeting, I brought up the Aurora motion that's been considered and supported by a number of municipalities recently for us to discuss. I thought it would be of interest for us as council to debate, given the sophisticated planning applications that have been brought before us recently. I brought it forward not necessarily supporting or disagreeing with it, but rather to hear thoughts and opinions with respect to it from both yourselves and staff to see if this was a motion we should support or file. I was quite impressed with the discussion along with the suggestions shared that evening. I particularly appreciated the outcome where it had been decided to take some of the good work that the town of Aurora had performed and formulate an updated Town of Lincoln motion that recognizes council's sentiment, that some sort of adjudicating body is and should continue to be available for anyone to go to should there be any disagreements with regards to planning matters. Councillor Russell and I have crafted a motion with input from staff that we are hoping will be supported by the rest of council, as we feel it captures our feelings and sentiments within council, while also providing some possible solutions that may be recognized by the province to bring forward some positive changes that will demonstrate to municipalities that it does support local, well-planned, responsible growth. Some may say that we're wasting our time, especially now with the recent announcements made by the provincial leaders, but I don't think so. I think we owe it to those we represent to demonstrate that we hear them and that we recognize their concerns and are willing to act upon them as best as possible within our power. A committed council working with some of the best planning staff having an in-depth knowledge of both local and provincial policy, dealing with an elephant in the room, I feel definitely deserves an effort on our part to work with the province to ease this sort of current planning environment. Thank you, Mayor Easton.
Thank you very much, Councillor Nicollet. I'll read the motion and then we can consider questions. I have a motion moved by Councillor Michalek and seconded by Councillor Russell. Whereas municipalities across the province of Ontario collectively spend millions of dollars of taxpayer money and municipal resources developing official plans that meet current provincial planning policy. And whereas an official plan is developed through months of public consultation to ensure that future planning and development will meet the specific needs of our community. And whereas our official plan is ultimately approved by the province when it is in accordance with the latest and most up-to-date provincial planning policy. And whereas it is within the legislative purview of municipal council to approve official plan amendments or zoning bylaw changes that better the community or fit within the vision of the town of Lincoln's official plan. And whereas it is also within the legislative purview of municipal council to deny official plan amendments or zoning bylaw changes based on criteria, including but not limited to those that do not adhere to principles of smart growth or do not fit within the policy framework at the federal, provincial, or local level. And whereas municipal planning decisions may be appealed to the Ontario Land Tribunal, OLT, formerly the Ontario Municipal Board, OMB, an unelected, appointed body that is not accountable to the broader community and all residents of the town of Lincoln. Whereas the OLT has the authority to make a final decision on planning matters based on a best planning outcome, and not on whether the proposed development is in compliance with municipal official plans. Whereas all decisions, save planning decisions, made by municipal council are only subject to appeal by judicial review, and such appeals are limited to questions of law and/or process. And whereas the province of Ontario is the only one in Canada that empowers a separate adjudicative tribunal to review and overrule local decisions applying provincially approved plans. And whereas towns and cities across the province of Ontario are repeatedly forced to spend millions of dollars defending local decisions, which is expensive, time-consuming, and ultimately futile. Whereas the lengthy and costly OLT hearings add years to the development approval process and act as a barrier to the development of attainable and affordable housing. Whereas the town of Lincoln recognizes that an adjudicative body is needed with respect to matters related to land use planning, environmental and natural features and heritage protection, land valuation, land compensation, municipal finance, and related matters. And whereas the town of Lincoln has received and reviewed other motions, including the resolution put forward by the town of Aurora regarding the OLT. And whereas the town of Lincoln wanted to offer a different, more local solution. Therefore, be it resolved that the town of Lincoln, number one, request the government of Ontario to dissolve the OLT in its current centralized form and replace it with regional boards that are more decentralized, responsive, and understanding of the locations in which they operate. And two, these regional boards be made up of professional representatives from the broader community in which they live, thereby ensuring a more local knowledge which plays an important role in decision-making. And three, the province of Ontario take into consideration that representatives of these new regional boards may be made up of both elected and non-elected subject and legal matter professionals from the broader region in which they operate. And the province of Ontario mandate that these regional boards, when deciding on appeals and matters related to land use planning in the region they operate in, place significant weight on local municipal decisions and local policies. And five, a copy of this motion be sent to the Honorable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, the Leader of the Opposition, the leaders of the Liberal and Green Party, all MPPs in the province of Ontario, the large urban mayors caucus of Ontario, the small urban Greater Toronto and Hamilton area mayors and regional chairs of Ontario. And number six, a copy of this motion be sent to the Association of Municipalities of Ontario. Madam Clerk, now that the motion has been read, I would like to solicit the members for questions. I see Councillor Regina. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to say that I'm really impressed with the way this motion is written up. It makes a lot of sense and it makes some really good recommendations. And it's clearly been reviewed by knowledgeable planning staff, and I'm going to support it. And partially because, unfortunately, I feel that some of the recommendations that are coming from the provincial level related to housing, while they may be well-intentioned, they seem to be missing the kind of mark that's important to us, particularly here in the town of Lincoln. And that's particularly related to the work that's been done at the Housing Task Force level and the Housing Committee level, where there's been a lot of consultation and a lot of review and a lot of discussion and reports all leading this council making decisions that ultimately will increase access of our residents to housing, quite simply. And there seems to be a bit of a red herring discussion that goes on, and I hear it a lot. And I don't think it's intentional, but I think it's misguided. And that's that simply building more homes will work toward the goal of providing greater access for people across the spectrum in our community to housing. And it's not sufficient. Creating more housing alone is not sufficient. It's part of the answer, but it's not the whole answer. And I think we recognize that in Lincoln, we're working towards putting in comprehensive policies and comprehensive zoning considerations and incentive plans that will help us not only in Lincoln, but in West Niagara to meet the housing needs that are specific to our residents. And we recognize that it's not just the quantity, but the type of housing as well. So I'm going to support this motion, and again, very well written and very well crafted. And I appreciate the extensive consideration that went into the terms of making recommendations about what the appeal board should look like. I appreciate that the recommendation is that it not just be appointed members, but also elected members as well. And that the members be ones that are clearly familiar with the needs of the region for which the decisions are being made. I think this is really important for us and for probably a considerable number of the 444 municipalities in Ontario. And I'll start by supporting this motion and thank you to the councillors that brought it forward. But I do have one suggested amendment, and that's just to the end, the one paragraph at the end of the first page of the motion. And it says, whereas the OLT has the authority to make a final decision on planning matters based on best planning outcome and not on whether the proposed development is in compliance with municipal official plans. So I would propose to add wording there and municipal zoning bylaws, because it's not just our official plans that get amendments to our official plans that get appealed. It's also zoning related matters as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Madam Clerk, do you have that amendment?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Madam Clerk, would you please read that? Wait a minute, we need a seconder to the council's amendment.
We do.
I'm looking for a seconder for the amendment. That would be Councillor Patriota. Thank you very much, Councillor. Madam Clerk, would you read that piece again and we'll vote on this?
Sure. And whereas the OLT has the authority to make a final decision on planning matters based on a best planning outcome and not on whether the proposed development is in compliance with municipal official plans and zoning bylaws. Is that correct, Councillor Regima?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, would you please call the vote on the amendment?
Thank you. So all those in favor of the addition of that wording, please raise your hand. And any opposed to that wording, please raise your hand. And the amendment carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Are there any other questions? I see Councillor Ryman. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Mayor Easton. Through you to the councillors, I'd like to thank them for taking the time to make this motion. A lot of work put into it. In reviewing this motion, there's a couple comments I'd like to make. I believe there is merit in provincial planning policies, where we have something that becomes our overriding principle or a template. I believe there's continuity with them, and I think this erodes some of that. I believe if you boil this down to each local region or municipality having their own little, and maybe kingdom isn't the right word, we're gonna put a stalemate on all kinds of development. I believe the two components that are discussed in there or that are brought up in the motion by the councillors, I think we have those two already. I think we have subject professionals that have input in every one of our decisions. Town staff, very qualified. We have our own legal team. We have public works, traffic consultants, you name it. We have quite a few and numerous other consultants involved and have their input. And we have the elected part. We have elected officials. Council has the input on these developments. And if this board doesn't have the power to overturn the Planning Act or overrule the Planning Act, we have the exact same as what we have now. I think I'll say, I have the word "we" down here, but I think I have learned quite a bit about planning in the last few years, and continue to learn on a daily basis. That is not an exact science, and it's hard to be definitive or specific. But in part number 4 of the motion, significant weight becomes a term that I think leaves too much open to questions. Is this a board? Is it an impartial body put in place to enforce the Planning Act? Is it a political body put in place to circumvent the Planning Act? I think there's lots of issues with the term significant weight. I'm not very comfortable with it. I do have a level of frustration with the current system. I know where this motion comes from. But I don't feel this motion addresses it. I also do not feel this motion addresses the bigger concern of mine, which is housing affordability or availability for our residents. And I will not be supporting this motion. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you very much, Councillor Arnold. Madam Clerk, I don't see any other hands. I would ask Councillor Mcpherson if he would take the chair for me.
I will.
Thank you very much.
Madam Mayor, go ahead.
Thank you very much. This it has been an interesting week. There were 3 or 4 quite significant reports that came down last week, not the least of which is the announcement of $19 million to advance the work, to speed up the process, and to advance the work of the Ontario Land Tribunal. So it sounds as though the plan of the province to use that as the main body for the adjudications is going to continue on. However, the councillor is correct, Deputy Mayor Councillor Michalek is correct in that you can continue to ask questions and therefore expect that you're going to get some ears listening and hopefully have some influence. And maybe that's where a number of municipalities are going. I had a conversation with Mayor Catherine McGarry. She's the mayor of Cambridge. I was interested to know the position of the Cambridge Council, as they did the same thing as we did, passed a motion to request a review and input from staff. They haven't got their motion back. The main question that she and I discussed that we felt was a pinch point was around the issue of the second whereas. And I would say that back in 2014, when the current official plan was being reviewed, that what was considered then to be important certainly isn't where we're at today. Furthermore, Council may recall that in 2016, our official plan, the Lincoln official plan, was still under review. It wasn't a matter of the province only considering a few matters. They actually appealed our entire official plan. And there were 19 outstanding issues at that time that required a considerable amount of work. So the question that Mayor McGarry and I spoke about was the consideration of information that evolves as it's going on, because it did take some time for staff to negotiate the matters. And some of those matters were were included very comprehensive parts of our official plan, like cultural heritage, our town structure and land use, specialty agricultural and prime agricultural areas, natural environment areas. You will understand, you will remember that all of these have been brought forward in the regional official plan. Zoning bylaw implementation, applicability, creeks and streams, waste management, heritage conservation, and the Part 10 definitions. There were many things that they were not satisfied with. And there were a number of schedules, including the schedules around hazard lands and resources, even the maps. They touched on everything. So when the land tribunal, when the OMB was eliminated and the land tribunal was brought in, one of the major and most important things that changed was the fact that you had to be much more specific about what you were appealing. You didn't appeal the entire official plan. You had to be very succinct about what your concerns were. However, it was a considerable amount of work for the town staff to provide redress to not only the province, but to the province in regard to what the region had also approved on our behalf. So, Councillor Mcpherson, through you to the CAO, I want to clarify the piece around the official plan and how we reconcile the changing information that councils address as questions of new applications come forward. Do we remain the same? Do we work with the language from 2014? Do we ignore any new information that comes forward? I believe that that's an important issue through you, Councillor Mcpherson.
Mr. CAO.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to the mayor. I think the mayor's question is one that, I'll probably answer this way without getting into the specifics of the official plan or any other legislation that we adhere to. And I think anytime new information is brought forward or new information is shared, staff are reviewing that and incorporating it into our decision making. And so I think we do that with all sorts of things. We do it when new information is provided. We do it with respect to anything that's brought forward, whether it be legislated or simply a matter of assessing different reports and different precedents or case studies or legal cases that I think, weigh into what we're doing and how we're doing it. So we're not static by any means. 2014, I think, as Mr. Bruder has said more recently, and Ms. Dale before him, is a very long time. And in the planning world, that's more of a lifetime than it is anything else. And so I think we're always forced to look at legislation and the changing parameters of that to make our decisions.
Okay, thank you. And that's very helpful, Councillor Mcpherson. So I'll go down to item number 10 under the whereases, where the reference is made to the cost to the province and to municipalities in terms of the expensive nature of appeals. And the reason I'm asking this question is because I would like to the public, I want our citizens to understand what's involved in this statement, because the clarity that I require through you to Mr. Bruder is really around municipalities following the policies and what happens if you use the tribunal to hide behind making a decision. And these are some of the items that were coming up through the discussions last week out of the province, and also from some of the agencies that have been lobbying the provincial government to change their methodology of having a quicker throughput, if you will. And so, Councillor Mcpherson, my question is, what happens if we don't follow our policy as it's written? Mr. Krakopoulos quite rightly states that we work with current information. So how is it then that we could run the risks, and many municipalities do run the risk of having many applications appealed to the Ontario Land Tribunal?
Mr. Bruder.
Thanks, Councillor Mcpherson, and through you to your worship. That's a good question for sure. You know, a lot of times having taken part in these tribunal hearings before, you know, that's obviously a main criteria is, you know, looking at applicable policy and how do things stack up, you know, to those. How was the decision made? Was it in consideration of these policies? And if, you know, there's sufficient evidence or, you know, sufficient material brought forward that kind of gives the impression that, you know, applicable policy wasn't followed when making a decision or was disregarded or what have you, that's when, you know, it gets very difficult to defend a position in those particular circumstances. You know, they typically do take a while. There's a lot that goes into these hearings, and you know, there's quite a bit of policy that can be applied. So a lot of things, a lot of moving parts in them, but ultimately, yes, if there's, you know, if there's a failure that's been identified in following, you know, especially ones that are approved at the local level as well that have gone through the process, yeah, then that's definitely going to be an issue when it comes forward, wherever the town is at. So hopefully that answers your question.
So through you, Mr. Councillor Mcpherson, to Mr. Bruder. So Mr. Bruder, if we do not follow our own policies, then the developer or a private citizen could challenge us at the tribunal, correct?
Yeah, yes, Your Worship, that is correct. But also, you know, it is important. It's not like the local policy is one thing, but, you know, we have provincial policy that's constantly changing as well. And sometimes the local policy needs to be updated, you know, to reflect some of those provincial policies. We see it all the time. We're going to keep seeing it. So that also plays a factor into the decision making as well. So I just wanted to make that point. The local policy is important, and yes, we are to follow it, but there's constant policy changes at all levels, which also factor in.
So through you, Councillor Mcpherson, to Mr. Bruder, should the public understand that if individual citizens challenge the decision of council, that their challenge also needs to reflect the fact that we have not followed planning policy, whether it be provincial, regional, or local. That it isn't about personal opinion, it's about proving that we have failed to follow the policy. Is that correct?
That would be correct, Your Worship. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. That's helpful, and I'm hoping that this is helpful to anyone that's watching, because these are the barriers that council experiences. Councillor Mcpherson, my final question is around in the resolution, item number 2. I need more clarification. I don't know who to turn to on this. I agree with more professional representatives, but I'm trying to figure out who they would be, because at the present time, if we have professional planners, we have professional engineers and others, who are the professional representatives outside of that, who would have the knowledge required to make those decisions? I'm just going to ask you to send this to the CAO, and then we'll see whether he has another idea. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So through to the CAO.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the mayor. Why don't I take a stab at it? Staff did work with both councillors in drafting this motion, and I think the intent of including the word professional was to make sure that when we spoke about local representation, that those local representatives had the necessary background to be able to look at the complexities of documentation and information coming forward. So I don't think its intent was to specifically highlight a professional designation, but I think more in a general term to highlight the importance of having professional expertise, whether that be planning expertise or otherwise, that could look at an application and assess the complexities of it.
Okay, thank you. And through you, Councillor Mcpherson, to Mr. Kirkopoulos, I think it would be beneficial then for members of the Lincoln citizenry to understand that the current members of the Land Tribunal do receive a very, very extensive orientation in order that they understand and know both the provincial, the regional, and the local policies. Am I correct?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to the mayor, there is extensive, guidelines and a framework and a training program, a mentoring program of sorts where new members work with existing members on most provincial committees. And so this is no different. There is that level of professional and training rigor that goes along with any such appointment.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Mcpherson, I appreciate the work that Councillor Michalek and Russell have put into this and the assistance that they've received from the staff. I think it's this is a pretty comprehensive motion. I will support the motion. I want to clarify where my support comes from. I believe in provincial planning policy. I believe in the consistency and the fairness and equity of the policy as it's carried down through to the regional level and to the local level. And I believe, however, that there are many things about planning policy that are not well explained or well understood by our local citizens. And it's just the virtue of the product that we're dealing with. There are many, many moving parts. I will support this motion because I believe that it may, if it's taken up by other councils, it may provide a greater knowledge of the process, a greater opportunity for our citizens to have input into that process, which in itself seems to be diminishing. So I appreciate the answers to the questions and the time that was taken. Thank you very much, Councillor Mcpherson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and back over to you.
Thank you very much. Now, I will look again at, we have the motion and we've had questions. I don't see any other hands, and I'll ask the clerk to call it a vote.
You, all those in favor, please raise your hands. So we have Councillor, so I'll just call your names, sorry, as I see them raised. Councillor Michalek, Councillor Mcpherson, Mayor Easton, Councillor Brunet, Councillor Regima, Councillor Russell, Councillor Pachariva. All those opposed, please raise your hands. Councillor Reimer and Councillor Timmers, and that carries.
All right, thank you very much. I do not have a mayor's report this evening. We'll move on now to item 15.2, which is the regional councillor update. And I'm looking for Councillor Foster. There he is. Go ahead, Councillor Foster.
Well, thank you very much, Mayor Easton, and a very interesting discussion listening to your earlier motion going through. First of all, I want to apologize to council. I missed the official sod turning, or I guess it looked like gravel turning down by the new museum today for the work that's going on. But this is a project that's long overdue, and I know there's been lots of work done, some cost overruns gone into play. I know the region has been following on board with it. So anyway, we're in it's very good to be seeing this moving forward. I'm extremely pleased. I have attended along with you a couple of events in the last 2 weeks. We both were at Mayor Senzik's State of the City in St. Catharines. The good thing about that is that the band Jonesy was playing, so that was a good excuse for Sue and I to go out that evening and listen to Mayor Senzik. Chair Bradley did his State of the Region, and he did that at Balls Falls. The NPCA and Balls Falls and the town of Lincoln were all held up as very good examples, and we were extremely well thought about in how they were discussing things in and across all of Niagara with Chair Bradley's State of the Region address. So George Dart resigned from the regional council this past week. Came as a complete surprise to myself, I'm sure Mayor Easton as well. I don't know any of the details in and around that, but And now St. Catharines has to go through and figure out how they're going to be filling that position. And I believe that may be coming back to the region either in late April or early May as it's going on. So we shall see what's going on with that. Let's see. I'd also wanted to make mention, and thank you to Councillor Timmers. I believe it was earlier discussing the Indigenous education training session. I too as well thought that was an excellent session, and very pleased to see a number of Lincoln councillors there. And sorry I added confusion to Councillor Mcpherson. I didn't realize there was another Councillor Mcpherson from the city of St. Catharines, but they had missed you. So anyway, I wanted to make sure you were identified being at that. This is standing committee week at Niagara Region. Lots of stuff going on. I'll be able to better report a lot of this back after our next meeting. But of course, public health, there'll be good discussions going on with that tomorrow. Public Works, just to let you know, continuing discussions with the region in and around traffic light scenarios, particularly in Beamsville. I'm hoping to be bringing back some additional information in the very near future on some of those. And we have a number of items coming up, corporate services, which I chair, and the one issue that won't be on that is the so-called rebate that at least one member of our council seems to think should be happening. So anyway, that won't be dealt with this week. That isn't going to be dealt with until much later on this year, and I really don't give it much hope of passing, but that's just my opinion. And just a quick update on a few things. As most of you know, I'm now chairing the NPCA. That has turned out to be an interesting organization to be chair of. I'm actually really quite liking it so far. I'm working very well with our CAO, Chandra Sharma. The mayor and I have been in some discussions. We're going to make sure that we're going to quote unquote take advantage of the fact that I am the NPCA chair, and so we'll be into some discussions in and around some of the issues that we have here in Lincoln, and make sure that those are held in to some degree a high priority in how we're moving forward. So with that, that's my report for this evening. Thank you, Mary Easton.
Thank you very much, Councillor Foster. And I'm looking now to see if there are any questions of the council.
Can I also add one thing, Mary Easton? So this past Saturday, I was at the New Canada Games Park, and by the way, my dog is barking in the background. The facility is absolutely beautiful. There is a grand opening that's going to be coming up in the not too distant future. When you get the opportunity, please get down to it. The facility is, as I said, second to none. Yes, the cost was 109 million, but I can tell you when you get in there, you'll understand what type of a legacy this facility is going to be for the future here in Niagara. So anyway, with that, thank you, Mary Easton.
Thank you very much. I don't see any hands. Thank you very much, Councillor. I have a motion moved by Councillor Majima, seconded by Councillor Reiner, that Council receive and file as information the following report of the regional councillor update. Madam Clerk, would you please call the vote?
Thank you. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. And seeing none opposed, that carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good evening, guys.
Thank you. We're on item number 16, the motion to consider confidential matters, which is item 16.1, motion to consider confidential matters. Before I read the motion and we motion to move into closed, I would like to explain what will happen for those watching this electronic meeting. First, there will be a closed session statement that the clerk will go through for all of council and staff that will be attending the closed session. Once that is completed, we'll move on with the motion to move into closed. And the clerk will be turning off the live webcast during the closed portion of the meeting. Once we've completed the closed portion of the meeting, we will resume with the live webcast and carry on with the public portion of the meeting, and we'll read the motions in public session. Madam Clerk, would you please conduct the closed session statement for all of council and others attending the closed session?
Thank you. Thank you. All members are reminded that any discussions in closed session are to remain confidential as per our procedural bylaw and code of conduct for the council for the town of Lincoln. Before we begin, I need each member that is attending electronically to confirm the following: that you understand the matters are to remain confidential. Confirm that no one else is present with you. Confirm no one else can hear this closed session. Confirm that you're not using any electronic devices other than your tablet, computer, telephone for the video conferencing. Confirm that you are not recording a portion of this meeting. If you acknowledge all of the above, please reply with "I understand," confirm to all of the statements as I read your name aloud. Mayor Easton.
I understand and confirm to all of the statements.
Councillor Rajima.
I understand and confirm to all of the statements.
Councillor Russell.
I understand and confirm to all the statements.
Councillor Brunet. Councillor Brunet.
I understand and confirm to all the statements.
Thank you. Councillor Pachariva.
I understand and confirm to all of the statements.
Councillor Mcpherson.
I understand and confirm to all the statements.
Deputy Mayor Councillor Meclick.
I understand and confirm to all of the statements.
Councillor Timmers.
I understand and confirm to all of the statements.
Councillor Reimer.
I understand and confirm to all the statements.
Our CAO Mike Kirkopoulos.
I understand and confirm to all of the statements.
Director of Economic Development and Communications Paul Deaney.
I understand and confirm to all the statements.
Director of Finance, Administration and Innovation Lawrence Wagner.
I understand and confirm to all these statements.
Director of Planning Development Matt Bruder.
I understand and confirm to all of the statements.
Director of Public Works Dave Graham.
I understand and confirm to all of the statements.
Director of Community Services Shannon McKay.
I understand and confirm to all of the statements.
Associate Director of Recreation and Culture Sarah Ain.
I understand and confirm to all of the statements.
Legislative Committee Coordinator Deanna Phillips.
I understand and confirm to all of the statements.
And I, as the town clerk, understand and confirm to all of the statements. And that concludes, Madam Mayor. You're on mute, Madam Mayor.
Yeah, didn't want to cooperate. Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. I have a motion moved by Councillor Brunet and seconded by Councillor Pachariva. Under Section 239 of the Municipal Act, notice is hereby given that Council adjourned to closed session in order to address item 16.1 as follows. Item 16.1, pursuant to Section 239, Section 8, information supplied in confidence to the municipality by another level of government as it pertains to the Canada Community Revitalization Fund program. Madam Clerk, would you please call out the vote?
Thank you. All those in favor, please raise your hand. And I'll ask on any opposed, please raise your hand. And that carries unanimously. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, please proceed with the technical requirements to move into closed session.
Thank you.